My boyfriend Jake humiliated me by calling me ugly in front of his friends, and then dumped me right there in the restaurant, leaving me with the check for their entire dinner. As he walked away, he loudly sneered, "Someone like you should be happy I ever wasted my time on you at all." Guys, I'm still in shock over what happened last weekend. That whole movie just keeps playing on repeat in my head, and I keep wondering if I imagined it. But no, the maxed out credit card and the ice cream stains on the couch confirm it. It was all real. Just to be clear, I've been with Jake for 2 years. 2 years, not some fleeting fling. We had the standard package: Sunday binge-watching sessions, awkward holiday inners with both families, and even that ridiculous couples yoga class he insisted on, where honestly, we were both completely useless. Our relationship wasn't perfect, of course. Are they ever? But I thought we were serious. We were even talking about potentially moving in together this summer. He had those small, annoying habits, scattering his socks literally everywhere, constantly glued to his phone during movies, and offering helpful remarks about my appearance. Things like, "That blouse makes your arms look bigger," or "Maybe you should try a different haircut." I used to just shrug it off, thinking he was just being honest. Ugh, what a naive fool I was. Last Friday, Jake texted me about dinner plans with his colleagues. He'd never taken me to a work event before, always citing unprofessionalism, so I was genuinely excited. I even sacrificed my budget for a new dress and spent ages getting ready. I'm talking full YouTube tutorial makeup, the special occasion hair straightener that only comes out for big events. You get the idea. I arrived at this ridiculously expensive downtown restaurant, the kind where the portions are microscopic and there are no prices on the menu. The first red flag. Jake was already sitting there with 2 guys from the office, Mark and Oscar. As soon as I walked up, the atmosphere felt weird. Jake barely acknowledged my presence. He just half stood and curtly said, "You're late." I was only 2 minutes late because there was absolutely no parking. I sat down, and he scrutinized my outfit before loudly declaring, "Oh, you wore that?" His friends exchanged looks, and I could feel my face burning. For the record, I was wearing a navy dress that I thought was very appropriate, nothing provocative. I tried to joke, "Did I miss a dress code memo?" But he just shrugged and said they'd already ordered appetizers. Great. The next hour went like this. Jake dominated the conversation, talking about his job, which I didn't understand a damn thing about, while his friends just nodded. Every time I tried to interject, Jake either cut me off or explained why I was wrong. At one point, I mentioned a customer story from my store, and Jake interrupted me with a dismissive wave. She just doesn't understand how things work in real business, as if my 3 years of experience as a retail manager was child's play. I sat there, feeling my bewilderment grow. I started wondering, had he always been this condescending, and I just hadn't noticed? Or was he showing off for his buddies? Either way, it was repulsive. Then Mark asked how we met. I started telling them how his colleague, Chloe, my best friend, had set us up. Jake sharply cut me off mid-sentence. Yeah, Chloe just felt sorry for her. I was essentially doing her a favor. And he laughed. Guys, my heart literally dropped. That was a complete distortion of the truth. Chloe, by the way, had warned me about his inflated ego, but said he was a good guy underneath it all. Spoiler, he was not. I excused myself to the restroom, mostly to keep from bursting into tears right there. I was sitting in the stall, typing a text to Chloe like, "What the fuck is going on?" when a notification popped up. Jake had just checked in at the restaurant on Instagram with the caption, "Dude's night out." As if I weren't even there. Chloe immediately called, but I declined the call so they wouldn't hear me sobbing. I splashed water on my face, fixed my makeup, and gave myself a... The waiter brought the main courses, and Jake didn't stop making jokes about my order. I'd ordered the pasta, one of the cheapest options, because I was already worried about the bill. He kept saying things like, "Carb loading for a marathon," and "bold choice for your physique." Each comment was like a tiny, sharp cut, and they were quickly piling up. By this point, I was barely eating, just pushing my food around the plate and counting the seconds until I could leave. Then Oscar asked Jake about a presentation, and Jake launched into a whole story about how his boss was thrilled with his ideas, and now he was essentially running the whole project. Something clicked in my head. A week ago, Jake was freaking out about that same presentation, saying his part was only 5 minutes long, and he was nervous. And now he was suddenly a star? It was like he was living in a parallel universe where he was the main character. And then the check came. The waiter placed it on the table. Jake picked it up, looked at it, and then smoothly slid it over to me. I figured he just wanted to show me the total, but then he said a sentence I will never forget. "You know what? I don't think this is going to work out." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. "I tried, but I'm just not attracted to you anymore. We need to break up." In the middle of a restaurant, in front of his friends. After 2 years? Who does that? I was in absolute shock. "Are you serious right now? This is how you decided to do it?" He stood up, put on his jacket, and said, I still get a lump in my throat thinking of these words. "A girl like you should be grateful I even dated you this long. You're not exactly a prize." And he, along with his friends, just walked away. The three of them strolled off, laughing, and I was left sitting alone with a $347 bill for all their stupid Wagyu appetizers and expensive cocktails. The waiter approached me with such a look of pity that it made it 1,000 times worse. I paid the bill with my credit card, which I'm still paying off from Christmas, yay, and somehow made it to my car without falling apart. From the parking lot, I called Chloe, crying so hard that she couldn't understand me at first. She rushed over with a tub of ice cream and a bottle of wine, a true hero. Between the ugly crying and stress-eating cookie dough, I told her everything. She was furious. I had to talk her out of driving to Jake's place to start a fight. Then she started acting strangely. She began asking questions about what Jake said about work, the project, and his role. Finally, she said, "Sabrina, I don't know how to tell you this, but Jake is not who he says he is at work." It turned out that Jake wasn't some cool marketer on the verge of a promotion, but a regular assistant who fetched coffee and scheduled meetings. All his business trips were complete lies. That big presentation, he was just making the slides for the actual team. His impressive title on LinkedIn, a total fabrication. I felt like such a fool. This guy had lied to me about literally everything for 2 years, and I never once doubted him. What else had he lied about? That night, after Vanessa left, I turned into a detective. I went through old messages, photos, everything. So many inconsistencies I'd missed. Remarks about money that didn't add up. Instances where he was working late, but his location showed he was across town. I couldn't sleep, reliving that moment in the restaurant over and over. How he humiliated me, how he made me feel worthless. Around 3 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Sam from Jake's office. Chloe gave me your number. You need to know something." That's when things got really interesting. After learning from Sam, Jake's colleague, that my boyfriend had been living in his own fabricated reality for 2 years, I spent several days in that awful post-breakup haze. You know, when you alternate between sobbing into ice cream and angrily scrolling through old photos, doubting if anything was ever true. My apartment became a disaster zone. Mountains of dirty dishes, unwashed laundry, and about 7 empty takeout bags because cooking was beyond me. The worst part was those moments when I'd remember something funny and reach to text Jake, only to remember what happened. It felt like getting dumped all over again. My brain was fixated on the questions. Did that really happen? And how could I not have noticed? I tried to avoid social media, knowing Jake would definitely post something infuriating. But on Wednesday morning, I gave in and checked Instagram. Sure enough, there was Jake, a selfie from the gym with the caption, "New level, know your worth." The nerve. I nearly shattered my phone. That evening, Chloe arrived with food and found me wrapped up in a blanket like a sad human burrito. She's a miracle. She made sure I ate properly, listened to my endless complaints about the same things, and never once said, "I told you so," even though she'd had her suspicions about Jake from the start. While we ate, Chloe showed me her text exchange with Sam. They had been talking a lot, and he had plenty to say. According to Sam, Jake had been telling everyone at work that he dumped me because I was too clingy and kept talking about marriage. What? Actually, the Pinterest board titled "Future Home Ideas" wasn't mine. It was his. He, of course, claimed it was a work project. Then Sam dropped the real bomb. Jake wasn't just lying about his job title. He was on probation for taking credit for other people's work and was about to be fired. All his late nights at work, he was desperately trying to fix his mistakes before anyone noticed. And the business trips? Pure fantasy. I was still processing this when my phone rang. It was Sharon, Jake's mom. I almost hung up. It felt awkward, but I decided to be the adult. Sharon had always been sweet. She remembered my birthday and took an interest in my life. She sounded concerned and asked if everything was all right with Jake and me. It turns out he told his family we had a little spat, but everything was fine. A little spat? The man publicly humiliated me, dumped me in front of his friends, and stuck me with a massive bill. I tried to be vague, saying we were taking a break, not wanting to involve her. Then she mentioned Jake's birthday dinner on Saturday and how the whole family was looking forward to seeing me. Guys, I nearly choked on my noodles. Jake told his family we were still together and that I was coming to his birthday dinner. But dinner was at his parents' house, and apparently he told them we had some big news. I hung up the phone and sat there, stunned, while Chloe stared at me like I was an alien. She asked, "Is he a psycho or just a pathological liar?" Honestly, I was wondering the same thing. That's when we came up with a plan. I wasn't going to just ghost his family. They had always been kind to me and deserved to know who Jake really was. But I didn't want to cause a scene or seek revenge. I would simply show up for dinner, as invited, and let the truth come out naturally. The next day, I met Sam for coffee. It was a little awkward, but he turned out to be a really great guy. He confirmed everything and added more details about Jake's lies. The team he supposedly led consisted of him and 2 interns. The responsible presentation he gave, he was just clicking the slides while his boss spoke. Sam was genuinely sympathetic, saying Jake's stories about me always seemed suspicious. It turns out Jake complained at work that I was, when in reality, I had been paying for most of our recent dates because Jake kept citing pay delays, which I now realize just meant he was terrible with money. Mid-conversation, Sam got a text from their boss asking him to come in on Saturday night to help with a rush project. Sam was upset because he had plans, but then an idea hit me. What if Sam needed to drop off some documents at Jake's parents' house during the dinner? The timing would be perfect. As we were finalizing the details, my phone pinged, a text from Jake, the first since that terrible dinner. We need to talk about what happened. I may have overreacted. Overreacted? I showed Sam, and he nearly spat out his coffee. Overreacting is getting mad about being late, not publicly dumping your 2-year girlfriend and sticking her with a $300 bill. I didn't reply. Let him sweat. The next 2 days flew by in preparation. I wasn't going to go in unprepared. I dug through old messages, gathering all the evidence of his lies, dates he was allegedly at conferences that didn't exist, stories about colleagues that Sam refuted, even photos from corporate events that were just downloaded from the company website. On Friday, Chloe came over to help me with my outfit. Part of me wanted to look drop-dead gorgeous to spite him, but we decided the best approach was to look simply good, nothing over the top. We chose a simple black dress that Jake once said made me look average, which I now realize was his weird attempt at a backhanded insult because I always got compliments in it. Friday night, I barely slept. What if it all went wrong? What if his family took his side? What if I chickened out and couldn't say anything? By Saturday morning, I had bitten all my nails and played through about 17 different scenarios in my head. Around noon, Jake texted again. "Looking forward to seeing you tonight. Wear something nice. The parents are excited." Again, I didn't reply. Let him think whatever he wants. I spent the day getting ready in a strange mix of dread and anticipation. Chloe did my hair and gave me a pep talk when I started losing my nerve. At 5:30 p.m., I got in my car and drove to his parents'. I had to stop once. My hands were shaking so badly I was afraid to drive. I sat for a minute, doing those breathing exercises from the meditation app I downloaded 6 months ago and never opened. What am I doing? Is this crazy? Maybe I should just block Jake everywhere and move on like a normal person. But then I pictured him sitting at that table, spinning some fake narrative of our breakup, maybe even making himself the victim. And my resolve hardened. I pulled up to the house at 6:15 p.m., a decent delay, which I knew would infuriate him. A few cars were already in the driveway. It looked like the whole family was there. I fixed my makeup in the rearview mirror, took one last deep breath, and headed for the door. Jake's dad, Richard, opened it with a wide smile and hugged me, ushering me inside. The house smelled of Tina's signature pot roast, and for a second, a wave of sadness washed over me. I genuinely liked his family, and this was probably the last time I'd ever see them. I walked into the living room, and there was Jake, a glass in hand, laughing at a cousin's joke. He froze when he saw me. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to actually show up, despite what he told his family. The look on his face was priceless. Panic flashed across it for a split second, but he immediately composed himself, walked over with a fake smile, gave me a tight hug, and whispered, "You came. We need to talk privately." I just smiled and said loudly enough for everyone to hear that there was no way I was going to miss his birthday, especially since he told everyone we had big news. The color drained from his face. Sharon clapped her hands happily, asking if it was what she thought it was. Jake's sister, Megan, shot me a knowing look. His dad, Richard, started making jokes about future grandchildren. Jake gripped my elbow too tightly, trying to steer me toward the hallway. But his mom called everyone to the table. As we were settling down, Jake nervously watched my every move. Then my phone vibrated. A text from Sam. On my way, 15 minutes. Jake leaned in and hissed. "What are you doing here? I thought after the restaurant." I gave him a sweet smile and said loudly enough for everyone, "Oh, I wouldn't miss the chance to tell your family about what happened at that restaurant, Jake. I'm sure they'll love the story." The look of sheer panic on his face as his mom brought out the food was worth every second of my anxiety. The game was on. And there we were, all sitting down. Me, surrounded by Jake's family, his parents, Tina and Richard, his sister Kayla, his grandmother, and a couple of cousins whose names I always forget. The table was groaning under the weight of Tina's famous pot roast, the buttery mashed potatoes I'd been dreaming of, and a fancy side salad that no one was going to eat, but everyone pretended to appreciate. The first 20 minutes were honestly awkward. Jake tried to control the conversation, shooting me warning glances. I just smiled and passed the bread, savoring the twitch in his left eye every time I opened my mouth. Petty? Maybe. Totally satisfying? Absolutely. Sharon, bless her heart, kept the conversation flowing. She asked about my family, my job, the usual small talk. When she mentioned how proud everyone was of Jake's big promotion, I nearly choked on my water. I looked at Jake, whose face had turned the color of the beetroot on the table. Jake immediately jumped in, talking about how his team was smashing targets and how his boss was practically grooming him for top management. I just nodded, watching him dig his own grave deeper with every word. Richard, who was always the quiet one, suddenly asked Jake about the Johnson account. Apparently, Jake had been telling his dad about some major deal he was supposedly handling. Jake's reply was so vague it could have been a horoscope. Something about strategic pivots and leveraging core competencies, which is to say, absolutely nothing. His sister Megan caught my eye across the table. She was always the family skeptic, the type who fact-checks during an argument and calls people out on their lies. She raised an eyebrow, as if asking, "Is he serious?" Then Sharon brought up the future. She asked about the big news and if it involved the next step in our relationship. Jake nearly dropped his fork and muttered that it was not the time to discuss it. His grandmother, who has absolutely no filter and is my favorite person in his family, chimed in. "So, are you moving in together or what? Jake said you were looking at apartments." News to me again. The furthest we'd gotten in that conversation was my suggestion to combine our Netflix accounts to save money. Jake tried to turn the conversation back to himself, mentioning his boss had given him a corporate card for business expenses. I couldn't resist. I asked exactly what kind of expenses he was authorized to approve. He mumbled something about client dinners and team outings. And then I casually dropped this. "Oh, speaking of dinners, Jake took me to a stunning restaurant last week. What was it called, honey? The one where you met Mark and Oscar?" The color drained from his face faster than the battery on my phone after watching TikTok. Seriously, my phone can't handle 20 minutes. Before he could answer, the doorbell rang. Perfect timing. Sharon went to open it, and I heard her delighted, "Oh, Sam, what a surprise." Jake looked like he was about to pass out. Sam walked in with a folder, looking all business in a button-down shirt. He apologized for interrupting the celebration, but said Jake needed to urgently sign some work documents before Monday. Sharon, ever the perfect hostess, immediately invited him to stay for cake. Jake tried to physically usher Sam toward the front door, but Richard insisted that work matters could be handled right at the table, since we're all family here. Sam sat in the empty chair next to me, which, I admit, I had saved for him. Jake was gripping his fork so tightly I thought it might bend. Then Richard asked Sam how the big presentation Jake supposedly led went. Sam was flustered for a second, but quickly recovered. He looked at me, then at Jake, and I could see him make a decision. Sam said the presentation went well, but clarified that their boss led it, and Jake and the team provided support. Richard looked confused and said Jake had described it differently. I jumped in because I'm a born instigator and asked Sam about Jake's promotion. Poor Sam looked uncomfortable, caught between loyalty to a colleague and the desire not to lie to an entire family. He fiddled with his napkin and mumbled something vague about corporate restructuring. Jake interrupted him with a fake laugh and tried to switch the topic to sports, but his sister Megan wouldn't let him. She asked Sam point blank what Jake's current job title was. The silence that followed was like dropping something in a public restroom. Everyone heard it, but no one wants to acknowledge it. Sam looked at Jake, who was silently begging him with his eyes, then at me. I gave a slight nod. He cleared his throat and said that Jake was an administrative assistant in the marketing department. Silence. Richard slowly put down his fork. His grandmother made a noise that I think was a curse in an old dialect. Megan muttered something that sounded suspiciously like, "I knew it." Jake immediately went into damage control mode, saying Sam must have made a mistake, that he had many roles, and that it's complicated. But the dam had broken. The family started asking specific questions that he couldn't dodge. When were you promoted? He wasn't. Why did you say you had a team? He didn't. What about the corner office? Fabricated. With every question, Jake's stories crumbled. He kept looking at me as if it were my fault, which only fueled my desire for the entire truth to come out. Sharon, the noble soul, tried to smooth things over. She suggested we have cake and talk about something pleasant. As she walked to the kitchen, Megan asked me directly about the restaurant I mentioned. This was my moment. I took a deep breath and told them everything. How Jake had invited me only to humiliate me. How he insulted me throughout the dinner. How he dumped me in front of everyone and walked out, leaving me with the $347 bill that I could barely afford. Jake tried to interrupt several times, but his father, Richard, silenced him with a look I'd never seen before. Pure disappointment. Jake's defense boiled down to me overreacting and playing the victim, that I had embarrassed him in front of his colleagues because I didn't fit in, and that leaving me with the bill was a lesson in financial responsibility. Jake's grandmother scoffed at that. Sam, who had been silent, finally spoke. He corroborated my story, adding that he had heard Jake bragging to colleagues that he had put me in my place. He even pulled out his phone and showed texts with Oscar, proof people, discussing the incident. Sharon returned with the cake, just as Jake was trying to play the victim. She put it down and asked what she had missed. No one answered. Then Jake's father, Richard, very quietly said that they needed to have a family discussion about honesty. Jake exploded, a full-blown tantrum. He accused me of turning his family against him, called Sam a traitor, and claimed everyone was just jealous of his success. What success? He knocked over his water glass, pointed at me, and yelled that a girl like you should be grateful he even noticed her. His mom gasped. His grandmother said something that was definitely an old-timey curse, and his sister just shook her head, not looking surprised. I, miraculously, remained calm and said the only thing I was grateful for was finally seeing who he truly was. Jake stormed out of the house, slamming the door so hard that one of Tina's decorative plates fell off the wall and cracked. The aftermath was strangely peaceful. Sharon apologized to me 50 times. Richard looked exhausted and sad. Megan helped clean up the spilled water. Sam apologized for the awkwardness, but said he couldn't stand by while Jake lied to everyone. And then the strangest thing happened. Instead of asking me to leave, they insisted I stay for cake. We all sat, Jake's ex-girlfriend, his colleague, and his family, eating cake without the birthday boy. In any other situation, it would have been maximally awkward, but somehow it wasn't. After the cake, I helped Tina in the kitchen. She kept apologizing and saying she had no idea Jake had lied so much. She looked genuinely heartbroken, not just about what he did to me, but about the person her son had become. I felt sorry for her, honestly. No parent wants to realize their grown child is essentially a walking red flag. She quietly asked if there had been signs before, and I admitted that looking back, yes, there were, but I ignored them because I wanted to believe the best. When I was leaving, Jake's dad, Richard, pulled me aside. He thanked me for my honesty and apologized for his son's behavior. He looked so broken, like he was trying to figure out where they went wrong in parenting. I assured him it wasn't their fault. Jake made his own choices. Sam offered to walk me to my car, perhaps sensing I needed a minute to process everything. As we walked down the driveway, he mentioned that Jake had been in trouble at work for months, taking credit for ideas, lying about his contributions, even forging client emails. He was literally on his last warning before being fired. Suddenly, Jake's desperate need to appear successful made a twisted kind of sense. His entire persona was built on this fake image of success. When I thought about it that way, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I thanked Sam for his support and drove home in a strange state of emotional exhaustion mixed with relief. It felt like finally taking off an uncomfortable bra at the end of the day. Sorry for the weird analogy, but you get it. When I arrived, I had 3 missed calls from Vanessa demanding news. I was about to call her back when my phone pinged with a text from Jake. "You ruined everything. This isn't over." I didn't reply. I just blocked his number and made myself some tea. I should have been scared or upset, but honestly, I just felt tired and maybe a little proud of myself for standing up for myself. I thought that was the end. I really did. But this morning, my phone blew up with 13 missed calls from Jake's mom, his sister, Sam, and several unknown numbers. Something had happened overnight, and judging by the increasingly frantic voicemails, Jake had completely lost control. The first person I called back was Tina, because she sounded the most distressed in her messages, which were all variations of, "Sabrina, please call me as soon as you can." She picked up on the first ring, her voice exhausted. It turns out, after Jake stormed out of the dinner, he went on a complete rampage. He showed up at his ex-girlfriend's house around 2 a.m., drunk, and started having a meltdown about how I had ruined his life. The ex naturally was terrified and called Kayla, who had to go and pick him up. But that wasn't all. Jake spent the night sending crazy messages to literally everyone we knew. He was sending threats to Sam, saying he'd destroy his career at work. Haha, good luck with that when you're about to be fired yourself. On Facebook, he posted a long, incoherent status about being surrounded by snakes and how everyone who betrayed him would regret it. The most disturbing thing, in a private message to his friend Oscar, he sent my address, stating he would make me pay for the humiliation. Oscar, who clearly has some kind of moral compass, immediately called Tina and forwarded the message. That's why she was so desperate to reach me. I sat on my couch in my ripped old pajamas with the remnants of yesterday's messy bun, trying to process this deluge of information. Sharon, meanwhile, apologized about 50 more times for her son's behavior. I probably should have been scared, but I just felt tired. It felt like my phone had been stuck at 1% battery for hours, and I was just waiting for it to finally die so I could plug it in and move on. Sharon insisted on coming over to make sure I was okay, which was very sweet, but also caused a sudden panic cleaning spree. Nothing motivates you to clean like knowing someone's mother is about to judge your living situation, right? I was literally stuffing dirty laundry into the closet and scrubbing dried toothpaste off the bathroom counter when the doorbell rang. It wasn't just Sharon. Megan was with her. They brought coffee and those pastries from the bakery near their house that are honestly, possibly the only thing I'll miss about dating Jake. We sat down at my tiny kitchen table with the wobbly leg I'd been meaning to fix for months, and they filled me in on the whole Jake situation. According to Kayla, this wasn't the first time Jake had lied about his life. In college, he told everyone he was on the baseball team, even though he was cut at tryouts. He once claimed he was dating the most popular girl, who basically didn't even know his name. It was a whole pattern, creating a fictional version of himself, more successful, more popular, more anything. While they were talking, my phone was constantly buzzing with messages from friends who had seen Jake's social media meltdown. Chloe was panicking, wanting to come over with her kickboxing boyfriend, just in case. I swear she watches too many true crime shows. My group chat was flooded with confused texts about Jake's dramatic but ridiculous posts. And then the doorbell rang again. I literally froze, thinking it was Jake. Megan peeked through the blinds and exhaled. It was Sam. Turns out Jake had been terrorizing his phone all morning too, and Sam wanted to warn me in person since Jake had mentioned he was going to pop by my place. And so there we were, me, Jake's mom, Sharon, his sister, Megan, and his colleague, Sam, sitting in my living room on a Sunday morning, trying to figure out what to do about this man-child who threw a tantrum because he was caught in a lie. If it weren't so stressful, it would be incredibly funny. Try explaining that situation to someone who wasn't there. Sam mentioned that their boss had already found out about Jake's social media tirade. Someone had screenshotted and forwarded it. So, Monday at work was going to be fun. Megan was worried Jake might do something foolish if he was fired on top of everything else. We were racking our brains when my phone pinged with a notification. Jake tagged me in an Instagram story. Against my better judgment and the protests of everyone present, I opened it. It was an old photo of me from the beginning of our relationship, asleep on his couch with my mouth open, with the caption, "Miss Perfection who ruined my birthday isn't so perfect. A girl like you should be grateful someone even took your picture." Was that his great revenge? A slightly unflattering 2-year-old snapshot. I burst out laughing, which certainly startled Tina. But honestly, if that was the worst he could do, I was going to be fine. Just as we were discussing next steps, there was a loud bang on my door. We all jumped. Then we heard Jake's voice, slightly slurred, "I know you're in there. Open up." Sam immediately stood up, ready to confront Jake, which was sweet but unnecessary. I was already calling the building security, a perk of more expensive housing. Jake continued to pound and yell. I could hear a neighbor's door opening to check on the noise. By the time security arrived, Jake had moved on to kicking the door. The guard didn't mince words. He ordered Jake to leave, or he'd call the police. After a brief shouting match I couldn't make out, silence fell. The guard gently knocked, informed us Jake had left the building but might be waiting in the parking lot. Sharon was heartbroken. She insisted on going down to deal with her son herself, and honestly, I was happy to let her. She was so upset that Richard, Jake's father, had to come pick them both up. The whole situation was just sad. After they left, Sam and I sat on the couch in a stunned silence for a while. He finally broke it by asking if I had any alcohol, which seemed like the most appropriate question after that morning. We split a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. This definitely qualified. By the time Sam left, it was late and I was emotionally drained. Chloe came over and stayed the night, just in case Jake decided to return. Luckily, he didn't. We ordered pizza, watched silly reality TV, and tried to process the absolute soap opera my life had become. The next few weeks were an adjustment. Jake was fired from his job after failing to show up for 3 days and sending inappropriate emails to several colleagues. He temporarily moved back in with his parents, which I know because Kayla and I continued to connect. She's actually great. We grab coffee sometimes. Jake tried to contact me a few more times, leaving voicemails that ranged from angry to tearful to strangely nostalgic. I saved them, just in case, but never replied. He created a few fake Instagram accounts to message me, but it was so obviously him, who else spells mistake with a double S, that I immediately blocked them. The weirdest moment was a random encounter with Jake at Target about a month later. I was standing in the home goods aisle, picking out a shower curtain, and suddenly there he was, holding a pack of socks, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Our eyes met, and for a second, I thought he was going to start a scene. Instead, he just turned around and walked away, abandoning his cart right in the middle of the aisle. That was 3 months ago. Jake ended up moving in with an uncle in another state, according to Tina, who still sends me holiday cards, which is sweet but awkward. His social media has been suspiciously quiet. Megan thinks his parents finally cut him off financially until he agrees to therapy. As for me, I'm doing great. My apartment finally feels like mine again. I rearranged the furniture and replaced the things that reminded me of Jake. The most unexpected outcome of all of this is my unlikely friendship with Sam. We're not dating and we have no plans to, even though Chloe constantly tries to set us up. We grab lunch sometimes and text about silly TikTok videos. It's nice to have someone around who witnessed the entire Jake saga and understands why I now have trust issues the size of a small region. Looking back, I'm not angry anymore. Well, not just angry. I'm also strangely grateful. Not for dating Jake, definitely not, but for learning who he really was before things went any further. Imagine if I had moved in with him, or something more. Shudders.